I awoke, the name still ringing in my ears. Zalgo. It was familiar, but I couldn't place from where. I suppose that's the problem with reading so many stories, right? The dream kept replaying in my head, over and over. I remember that feeling of helplessness. It all felt so real. This feels real too, I thought. I smoked the idea from my mind. How could I be in another dream? I woke up. I was awake. Jess opened the door and stuck her head in. "You feeling all right?" she asked, a warm smile on her face. Are you real, Jess?" "Of course I am, silly," she said with a giggle. She stepped into my room, taking slow, long strides to me. I'm not really sure of anything right now." "Well," she said, bending down and bringing her lips close to mine, "let me prove how real I am." Next thing I knew, I was laying back on my bed. Jess was on top of me, her fingers running through my hair. Her lips pressed to mine. I felt her grab one of my wrists, placing it on her hip. She was sort of moaning in this weird way, her body rubbing against me. I was just starting to enjoy it when I felt something in my mouth. It was cold and metallic in taste, but rubbery in feel and had very tough texture. I pushed Jess away, spitting into my hand. There was a chunk of what looked like clotted blood. When I looked up to Jess, still sitting on my hips, I saw she had blood trickling from her mouth. She giggled, her eyes rolling back into her head. I tried to scream, but my throat closed.
"Jonah?"
Her voice was distorted now, deeper and scratchy. "Jonah, you aren't dreaming. This is real." I grabbed the closest thing I could, my lamp, and smashing it against her head, she fell to the ground, her neck bent at a strange angle. My door suddenly burst open, my father charging in the room. "What the hell happened?" "Dad, I can explain. That isn't Jess." He ran over to her, turning her body over. Her long hair was soaked in blood around where I had hit. A bone stuck out at an awkward angle from her neck. There was suddenly screaming. I couldn't tell if it was me or my father. I blacked out after that. I awoke in my bed. Another dream? But the red and blue lights outside my window said otherwise. I looked at the ground and saw that Jess was still laying there, my father in the corner of the room, holding my mother in one arm and cupping his hand over his mouth with the other. I could hear footsteps coming up the stairs. A policeman and 2 paramedics came into the room. She was declared dead at 7:26 p.m. I wasn't given a chance to mourn. I wasn't allowed to be sad. I was shoved into the back seat of a car, driven to a cold building, and sat at a metal table, my arms bound behind my back with handcuffs. It was about 30 minutes before a man came in. He was dressed in a suit, his hair combed neatly and his stomach a bit round. He sat down in front of me, placing a small recording device down on the table. "What was your relationship with Jessica?" he asked me after a few moments of silence. It was like he was giving me a moment to let the severity sink in. "Jess is..." I stopped, a lump forming in my throat. "She was my girlfriend." "So you and her were romantically involved? Did she do things to make you angry? Flirt with other boys? Maybe not listen to you?" "No. She was wonderful. Perfect, really." I could feel tears welling in my eyes. I blinked them away. I didn't want to break down, not in front of a man accusing me of killing the person I loved. "Have you ever been mad at her? Really mad?" "No, never. I never hit her. I never got into fights with her. I never even raised my voice at her." "Uh-huh." He sniffed loudly, leaning back in his chair, arms folded over his chest. "Do you believe in monsters, kid?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. I took in the shape of his face, the curves of his jaw, the bags under his eyes and the wrinkles on his forehead. "No." "Well, you should," he said, standing up. "Monsters are everywhere. They live in the corners we don't see, seeping through the walls of this perfect little square world." He walked around to me as he spoke. I felt his heavy hand on my shoulder. "Do you understand what I'm saying, kid?" "You mean monsters like criminals?" "No." His finger squeezed round my shoulder. "I mean creatures of another realm." "Hey, let go of me.
I mean things that go bump in the night.
Ghosts, demons. He pulled me back, pushing me in the chair to the ground. I mean the invoker of the hive mind. I froze, my eyes widening. I watched as his eyes began to bleed.
You have made things very difficult for me, child.
The man before me was now speaking in echoes of voices, exploding from all around me. Who the hell are you? What do you want with me? I am Zalgo. I awoke from another blackout. This time, I was outside, deep in the woods. It was dark. Darker than I had ever seen this place before. I looked around, trying to find some sort of landmark, but it was all trees and rocks. Something was rustling, but I couldn't tell from where. I stood up, quickly looking in every direction. How did I get here? How was any of this real? It was real. The realization hit me so suddenly. All of this. My girlfriend was really dead, and I had really killed her. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I knelt down, hands over my face, sobbing. I screamed and shouted. I punched the hard, packed dirt. How could this be happening? Nothing this bad ever happened before. Nothing ever got this bad. All the times I'd saved Jess. All the times I was her knight in shining armour. It was all for nothing. She still died in the end, and it was me of all people who did it. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I looked up, afraid I'd see a police officer or some new horror. Instead, I saw a tall man in a suit, without a face. Oh, so now you show up? Great fucking timing. He patted my shoulder, his head bowed. I could tell he was upset, remorseful. I sighed, standing up. What's done is done. I doubt you could have done any better than me. Let's focus on figuring out how to stop whatever the hell is trying to kill me this time. As I got back to my feet, I heard the same rustling sound again. I shuddered, my mind racing as to what might be behind it. What I saw was the armless thing from my dream. It walked slowly out from behind some foliage, its small black eyes staring at me, its wide mouth fashioned into a grin. I took a slow step back and a step forward. I took another step and he mimicked me again. Hey, Slendy, you think you could do something about this? I said, taking another step. This time, as the monster moved forward, Slenderman did as well. The armless thing growled and took a few steps back, crouching down. I took this chance to run, full speed, in the opposite direction. I looked back to see the thing try to chase me, but Slenderman had grabbed him and was busy pressing his skull against a tree. I soon found myself in my backyard. I was panting and wheezing from running the whole way. I wiped the sweat from my brow and was about to relax when I saw the flashing blue and red lights again. The police either never left my house or were back looking for me. A man in uniform saw me and started shouting. I was going to run, but there was nowhere to run. It was either back into the woods with the armless freak or to the road with all the police. I simply put my hands up and let them come to me. There were 4 of them that approached me, all of them shouting, guns drawn. I knelt on the ground, hands up still. They kept shouting, and one of them put cuffs tightly around my wrist. He grabbed me by the hair, dragging me to my feet. Hey, stop it, that hurts, damn it! I shouted, but he didn't listen. Another officer kicked me in the back. Hard. I stumbled and he kicked me again. What the hell? I looked and saw that they had all blood trickling from their mouths. They dragged me back into the woods, taking turns hitting me the whole way. They finally stopped at a large clearing, throwing me to the ground. I don't get it. Why the hell am I so special? You are not, they all said. What? Then why target me? You have merely fallen into special circumstances. I heard a loud growl from behind the men. They stepped to the side, all looking forward in a very mechanical, unnatural way. Into the clearing came the other monster I had seen with Zalgo in my dream, the large dog-like thing with the mask. It walked to me, its head cocked ever so slightly to the left. It stopped in front of me. The men spoke again, their heads all turning at once to face me. The hunt has begun. Run, boy. Run so the seed eater might chase. I stood, my hands still tied behind my back. And if I don't run? If there is no hunt? Then Seed Eater will kill you now. The monster growled at me, taking a step closer. I looked at him and felt a cold chill running down my spine. I won't play your game. If you want to kill me now. So be it. I saw the beast jump at me, but something slammed it into its side, knocking it from the air and sending it sprawling to the ground. On top of him lay the mangled body of the armless beast, its head torn off. I sighed with relief, looking over from the direction the monster came from to see Slenderman there. Thank God. Come on, get these cuffs off me. He tore the metal chains off like it was made from old string. I rubbed my wrists, looking over to the policemen who still stood perfectly still. So, what circumstance is so damn special that you had to come after me? I have always been after you, child, since you first made contact with the Rake. Why? I was completely confused by this point. Why chase me for over 2 years? Where have all the monsters that attacked me from you? Yes, there is an order to things. 3 of the policemen suddenly fell to the ground. The one standing walked over to me. He reached up, grabbing his head, and snapped his neck. His head lulled its place as the voices now came from all around. You humans are not to know of the monsters from other worlds. When you do, it threatens our existence. I don't understand. Of course you don't. Humans have done 2 things since they evolved enough to make fire. You have killed our kind, and you have been confused. Humans are born confused and they die confused. Wait, kill your kind? There are more of you? In a sense, yes. The officer's eyes suddenly popped from his skull, falling to the ground. I refer to all species that are not humans. The seed eaters and the rakes. The Slenderman and the smile dogs. The things you call supernatural. The things that are from other planes of existence and take grotesque forms here. Wait, are you saying Slenderman is the same as the Rake? Yes. They simply were from separate tribes that decided upon different forms. My head was spinning. All this information, these monsters were not trying to kill me from pure coincidence. The past almost 3 years where Zalgo tried to protect himself and protect his people from me. I knew too much, and that is why they wanted me dead. I was so caught up in it all I didn't notice that the officer's body was falling apart. I only noticed when he grabbed his shoulder and tore the flesh from his body, revealing a deep black figure with 7 mouths on its body and large wings. Human, all the mouths spoke at once. It is time for you to suffer for killing so many of my kind. Slenderman stepped in front of me, his arms outstretched. He looked confident and fierce. He was ready to fight to protect me as he always had. Zalgo looked up at him. He laughed, his body suddenly growing. He stood well over Slenderman, his laugh growing deeper and louder. We may be from the same world, but I am far stronger. You pathetic worm. I am a god compared to you. You dare challenge me? Slenderman swung his arm, but it stopped mid-swing. Zalgo laughed again, watching as Slenderman's arm was ripped off and disappeared into a cloud of black shadows. He held his hand out, Slenderman suddenly falling backwards. Zalgo stepped closer, stomping on his chest. I screamed as I saw shadows float away from his body. There was a sudden emptiness that I felt. My head was ringing, my breath wasn't coming. I looked up at Zalgo. The last thing I remember was seeing his foot come down on me and hearing the words, "So much time for a simple bug." I heard my name being called and it woke me up. I took in a deep breath and opened my eyes. I saw a face I didn't imagine I'd ever see again. It was Herp, standing there with a smile on her lips, her hand reaching out to me. "Hey, Jonah, it's time to go. The train leaves soon." The train? I looked around and saw I was still in the forest, only everything was brighter. "Yeah, the train. Come on." I took her hand and she helped me to my feet. She whipped the dust off my shoulders. "God, your hair's a mess, man. I was crushed by a giant monster. That's no excuse," she said with a laugh. "No, I mean, why am I here right now if I was just... Come on, I'll explain on the way." Herp brought me to the railroad that ran behind my house, but it had been buried and unused for years. She tapped her foot impatiently, looking down each end of the track. She explained that I was in fact, well, no longer alive, and that we needed to take the train to the afterlife. Wait, this is like a creepypasta I read. "Of course it is," she said with a sigh. "Wait, this train, the midnight train? Doesn't it go to hell? Nope, she said to me. I've taken it before. Some people get off at different stops, but the conductor, he's the devil. Or at least the closest thing there is to a devil. Yeah, but that doesn't mean everyone in the train goes to hell. So then, where am I going? As I asked, the train pulled up. The door opened and Herb climbed on. I followed, looking around. You, my friend, are not going to hell, she said with a broad smile. She led me to a row of seats. I saw another face I'd never thought I'd see again. Jess! I cried, choking back my tears. Jess! She looked at me with that smile. Hey, city boy. You whacked me pretty good, huh? Jess. I'm sorry, Don't be, she said, waving her hand in front of her. I was dead the moment that thing took over my body. We sat there, talking, me and Herb, catching up on all the times I spent without her. I took one final look as the train began to move again. I saw the woods that I died in. All the trees peacefully blowing as if nothing had happened that night. There wasn't a single trace of what had happened to me. Life went on. Of course it did. Of course life continued as normal. What's one life taken by a Lovecraftian horror anyway? Zalgo was right. I wasn't special. I was just a boy who stumbled into some very special circumstances.